In the annals of World War I, few battles resonate with as much sorrow and loss for Australia as the Battle of Fromelles. Known as one of the darkest days in Australian military history, this ill-fated attack on July 19, 1916, resulted in catastrophic losses for the Australian Imperial Force, AIF. In less than 24 hours, over 5,500 Australian soldiers were killed, wounded, or taken prisoner. This is the harrowing story of the Battle of Fromelles, a tale of bravery, sacrifice, and tragic miscalculation. By mid-1916, the Western Front had become a brutal and unforgiving theatre of war. The Allies, seeking to relieve pressure on the French forces at the Battle of Verdun, planned a series of diversionary attacks. One such attack was directed at the German-held village of Fromelles in northern France. The goal was to prevent the Germans from sending reinforcements to the Somme battlefield, where a major offensive was underway. The 5th Australian Division, newly arrived on the Western Front and lacking combat experience, was selected to spearhead the assault alongside the British 61st Division. Despite their inexperience, the Australian soldiers were eager to prove themselves in battle. The plan, hastily conceived and poorly coordinated, called for a frontal assault on well-fortified German positions. The Germans occupied a series of strong defensive lines, with machine gun nests and barbed wire obstacles. The attack was scheduled to commence after an intense artillery bombardment designed to weaken the enemy defenses. However, the bombardment failed to achieve its intended effect. Many German positions remained intact, and the element of surprise was lost. The German defenders, well prepared and deeply entrenched, awaited the advancing Allied troops. The battle begins. At 6:00 p.m. on July 19, 1916, the Australian and British forces went over the top and advanced across no man's land towards the German trenches. The initial moments were filled with determination and hope, but the reality of the situation quickly became apparent.
As we climbed out of our trenches, the sound of machine gun fire filled the air. It was like walking into a hailstorm of bullets, recalled Private James Grundy, an Australian soldier who survived the battle.
The Germans, with their machine guns strategically placed, unleashed a devastating barrage. The Australian and British soldiers were mowed down in droves, unable to advance or retreat. The open fields of Fromelles became a killing ground. The German defences at Fromelles were formidable. They had constructed deep, well-fortified trenches, complete with concrete bunkers and machine gun emplacements. Barbed wire entanglements in front of their lines created deadly obstacles for the advancing Allied troops. The Germans had also perfected the use of interlocking fields of fire, where machine guns were positioned to cover each other's blind spots, creating a lethal crossfire zone. The German commanders, aware of the impending attack, had reinforced their positions with additional troops and ammunition. They had prepared for counterattacks and had clear lines of communication to call for artillery support if needed. The meticulous planning and execution of their defensive strategy gave them a significant advantage. The mistakes and miscalculations. Several critical mistakes and miscalculations by the Allied command contributed to the disastrous outcome. The artillery bombardment, intended to neutralize the German defenses, was insufficient. It failed to destroy the well-protected machine gun nests and did not effectively cut the barbed wire obstacles. As a result, when the infantry advanced, they encountered fully operational defenses. Furthermore, the attack plan did not adequately account for the challenging terrain and the strength of the German positions. The coordination between the Australian and British units was lacking, leading to confusion and disorganization during the assault. The timing of the attack, scheduled for late afternoon, meant that the advancing troops would soon be fighting in the dark, adding to the chaos. Throughout the night, the horror continued. The battlefield was illuminated by flares and the relentless gunfire. The wounded lay stranded in no man's land, crying out for help that could not come. Attempts to reach the German lines were met with fierce resistance, and any gains were quickly lost.
The screams of the wounded echoed through the darkness. It was a nightmare, and we were trapped in it, said Sergeant William Haig, who fought at Fromelles.
Despite the overwhelming odds, acts of incredible bravery were witnessed. Soldiers risked their lives to rescue their comrades, and medics worked tirelessly under fire to tend to the wounded. As the night wore on, the struggle for survival became even more desperate. Some soldiers dug shallow scrapes in the ground to avoid the relentless machine gun fire. The sound of exploding shells, the acrid smell of gunpowder, and the sight of fallen comrades created a scene of unimaginable horror.
We were pinned down, unable to move. The ground was soaked with blood, and the cries of the dying were all around us. Remembered Corporal Jack Turner, an Australian survivor.
In the chaos, small groups of soldiers tried to hold their positions, fighting hand to hand with bayonets and rifles. The bravery and tenacity displayed by these men were extraordinary, even as hope began to fade. By the morning of July 20th, the battle was effectively over. The assault had failed, and the cost was staggering. Over 5,500 Australian soldiers were killed, wounded, or captured, making it the worst 24 hours in Australian military history. British casualties added to the tragic toll. The battlefield was a scene of devastation, littered with the bodies of the fallen. The survivors, traumatized and exhausted, struggled to comprehend the scale of the loss. The impact of the Battle of Fromelles was felt deeply across Australia as news of the disaster reached home. The Battle of Fromelles left an indelible mark on the Australian psyche. It was a harsh introduction to the realities of trench warfare on the Western Front. The bravery and sacrifice of the Australian soldiers, despite the flawed planning and execution of the attack, became a source of national pride and sorrow. In the years following the war, efforts were made to recover and identify the fallen. Mass graves were uncovered, and many soldiers were finally laid to rest with dignity. The discovery of a mass grave in 2009 led to the identification of many previously unknown soldiers, bringing closure to families and a renewed commitment to remembering their sacrifice.
We owe it to those who fought and died at Fromelles to remember their bravery and to learn from the past, said historian Peter Barton, reflecting on the battle's legacy.
The Battle of Fromelles stands as a testament to the bravery and resilience of the Australian soldiers who faced insurmountable odds. It is a story of courage in the face of adversity and a somber reminder of the cost of war. As we remember the fallen, we honor their sacrifice and the enduring spirit of those who fought at Fromelles. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like it, subscribe, and comment below what topic or historical battle we should do next.